Thank you for allowing us to present to you today. I think this topic of retirement and some of the key tax issues out there are very important. This is going to be an open conversation, so feel free to ask any questions at any point in time. I don't want this to be too structured. I want you to get the most out of this presentation, so feel free to ask away. I will cover some of the key concepts, part of it in regards to government benefits. Some of you already know some of this information, so it might be a refresher for you. Some of you who are fairly new to the retirement side or have not received some of your pension benefits yet, either through government or through CP, we will kind of touch on some of that stuff. And then we'll also talk about personal savings, and I will cover some of those areas. We have also provided you with a copy of our book. Dave and I, my business partner, has written a book a couple years ago called Bulletproof Your Retirement. It's a complimentary book for all of you, so feel free to come by the front of the table and pick up a copy. Some of the key concepts that I'm referring to are also in this write-up. So feel free to pick that up if you want to take that with you, just to kind of give you a refresher of our conversation that we've had today. I would like to kind of touch on the first key government benefits. First of all, the Canadian Pension Plan. The Canadian Pension Plan maximum as of this year will be at $1,155 approximately. That's for those who are age 65. Now you can take your Canadian pension plan early, or you can defer it to past 65 up to the age of 70. Those of you, out of curiosity, who's not receiving Canadian pension plan at this point in time? We got some young ones in here, excellent. Okay, those of you, you have a choice. You can defer up to the age of 70. I would strongly recommend doing a financial calculation to see if it's worthwhile to defer. Because of the incentives that the government has placed in the last 5 years, we find that in many cases it's actually worthwhile to defer to 70. So I would recommend getting a financial calculation done because there is some benefits on the amount that you get. Canadian Pension Plan contributions are going up, and it's going to happen over the next 10 years or so. So those of you who that know people who are still contributing to Canadian Pension Plan, no major impacts to you. It's very small over the next few years, but it's supposed to ramp up when we get past the 5 or 7 year mark, and that's when we'll start seeing a bit of an impact on that. Old age security. Old age security is, again, an opportunity for individuals who are not receiving at this point in time. You can defer up to the age of 70. You do get some benefits or increased amounts. But the old age security is income tested. Canadian Pension Plan is not income tested. If you contributed to it, you do get it. Old age security is residency tested, meaning you have to be living in this country for a certain period of time, and it's income tested, which means once your income is above $79,000 or $78,000 in income, they start to claw back. So think of it this way: for every $1 above $78,000, they will take 15 cents away from your old age security. Okay? So an old age security is not a pension benefit, it's a social benefit. Remember that. So this is the only one. CPP, no clawback. Old age security, potential clawback. Who does this really frustrate the most? Those of you who are receiving Canadian Pension Plan, old age security, and now you have to withdraw out of your RSPs. And all of a sudden the tax man cometh, and he starts to claw back at the same time. They call it clawback, I call it a tax. It's a tax, they're taking your money.
It's a ripoff.
Sorry?
It's a ripoff.
It's a ripoff. That's what we just heard. Yeah, I agree. I agree. They are taking it from you. It's supposed to be a social benefit according to how the program was put out. But it's a clawback. I call it a tax because they're taking it away from you for something that you were told you were going to receive. The income concept has been fairly new. It hasn't been around for too long, and so yeah, in some cases it's a tax or a ripoff. I agree. When we look at defined benefit pension plans, many of you, if not all of you, are on the CP defined benefit pension plan. All of you qualify based upon age and number of years of service and so forth, based upon the incomes that you receive and so forth, and so you'll get your income. That's part of the income test for the old age security clawback. In a defined benefit pension plan, if you're over the age of 65 and receiving it, you can also split that money on your income tax with your spouse, should you be lucky to have one. I always get one question that says, can I have more than one spouse so I can split my income? You can't do that in this country, so don't try to do that. Yes, sir.
Is there a maximum you can split with your spouse, or is it just $5,000 or something?
So the question for those of you in the back, is there a maximum amount that you can actually split on your pension? There is a maximum. It's 50% of the pension.
Oh, okay.
You cannot split more than 50%. Okay, so there's no dollar amount maximum. There is a percentage maximum.
So the CPP, my wife, when I pass away, she'll get 50%?
So the question was, when I pass away, will my wife get 50% of the CPP?
Yeah.
No.
No.
We were talking about your defined benefit pension plan at CP, at Canadian Pacific, not the Canadian pension plan. The Canadian pension plan cannot be split on your income tax. The Canadian pension plan can be split, but you have to file paperwork with Service Canada to show that you are married, and you can then split. Basically, let me give you an example. Let's say you're receiving $1,000 from CPP, your spouse is receiving $600. You can file an election through Service Canada, filling out a whole bunch of paperwork. What they will do is they will add your two Canadian pension plans together. So $1,600 in my example, they'll divide by 2, $800, and they'll each give you a check for $800. You cannot do this on your income tax. You can only do this through an election through Service Canada, they will then deposit the money individually to you in equal amounts. The purpose of this, why would we do all this work? The ideal situation in your taxes in retirement is to make sure that both you and your spouse have the same amount of income in retirement. If one has higher income than the other, generally speaking, one is paying more tax than the other, it's not as tax efficient. So the tax game going forward is to try to have you and your spouse have the same amount of income. Does that make sense?
So does that affect to survivor benefit after? Like if you're splitting your CPP and one spouse passes away, does that automatically change the survivor benefit?
So the question was, does the survivor benefit in your Canadian pension plan get changed or altered if you split it and then all of a sudden one of you pass away? The answer is no. The survivor benefit is a survivor benefit. It's the same calculation that's supposed to be determined.
Just to the maximum.
Up to the maximum. You may not get the full maximum depending upon your situation, but up to the maximum. Absolutely. RRSP and sorry, yes, there's a question in the back.
Yes, on the survivor pension for your spouse, what percentage do they get when you pass away? Like, in other words, if my wife passed away, if I passed away, what would she get out of my pension plan? What percentage would she get?
So the question, if I heard you correctly, is if you pass away, what percentage of your Canadian pension plan does your spouse get?
Yeah.
There is a survivor benefit up to the maximum, which is the $11.54. So you do not get more than $11.54 if you're over the age of 65.
Okay.
So there is a disadvantage. Some people believe that the Canadian pension plan, if you get $1,100, your spouse gets $1,100, and if one of you pass away, that surviving spouse should get $2,200. Not going to happen. It'll be $1,100. Or up to the maximum is what they'll provide, right? There is a one-time death benefit from the old age security. That one-time death benefit is a whopping $2,500. Somehow, somewhere around across this country, government said it only costs you $2,500 to put you in the ground, so here's your death benefit. I have yet to find that price being accurate.
That's right.
So we are petitioning, we have lobbied, we have paid lawyers to fight that, to make that price go up. I think it's now $15,000 in Calgary to put somebody into the ground. So we would like to see old age security catch up to those kind of prices. It's more expensive in cities like Vancouver, which doesn't have as much land. And so we want that to be acknowledged by the federal government. So we're getting close to election time. That could be an election issue. Actually keeping up with cost of living, actually keeping up with what is needed for CPP and OAS. So you are one of the biggest supporters out there when it comes to election time. One of the demographics that politicians go to. So your voice will be heard. Yes, sir.
I thought that $2,500 death benefit was maximum.
It is maximum. You're correct. $2,500 is the maximum death benefit from old age security.
Okay. Otherwise, if you're not making CPP maximum is only up to 6 months of what you're getting.
So your CPP benefit is different than the old age security death benefit. Those are two different things.
Right.
Yeah.
But the way I was told, because I was doing somebody's form and they get it back because the person was not making full CPP monthly, so they gave him 6 months or whatever he was making, which was $1,800.
On the CPP side.
Right.
So what the comment was is if they have not received a full year's worth of pension and they pass away, then they get some sort of pro rata amount. That is separate than the death benefit of $2,500 in the old age security. So be aware of that. When it comes to, sorry, yes.
What's the minimum that you get for survivors?
What's the minimum? 0.
The maximum is 1,100.
The minimum is 0. If you haven't contributed a Canadian pension plan,
Okay, well,
then you get 0. So it all depends upon time of how much you've contributed into it, what your income is. I can tell you what the averages are. The averages for Canadian pension plan is in and around $650
for survivors.
for survivor benefit. So in and around that approach. So I wouldn't say there is a minimum. The answer is 0, but I don't want to be too coy with you. I just want to say what the averages are is about $650. Okay. Biggest opportunity throughout your career was contributing to an RRSP. What the government said to you was, when you put a contribution into your RRSP, it deducts against your income, you save on your income tax. Some of you spent that income tax, some of you then reinvested that money, whatever you did with that, you did what you did. But at some point in the future, when you turn 72 years of age, you are forced to withdraw out of your RRSP. In fact, you have to convert your RSP into an RIF, a retirement income fund. We're going to use the word RIF as what that account will be called. The government has then put an amount that you have to withdraw every single year, either based upon your age or your spouse's if you have one. We say pick the younger one, and the reason for that is because it is based upon your age. So think of it this way. Take 90 divided by your age is the percentage that you're supposed to take out of your RSP or RIF. Okay. 90 divided by your age is the percentage you should be taking out of your RSP or RIF. The younger you are, the lower the percentage. Right now at 72 years of age, it's approximately 5% is what you're supposed to take out. So if your spouse is younger than 72, you could use that person's age, get a lower amount. That's to take out the least amount possible. One of the biggest pet peeves that happens in an RSP or a RIF is if you want to take out more and you start creeping above that $77,000 mark, that claw starts coming in and taking back from old age security. I can tell by the reaction to what I just said, it's happening to quite a few of you in this room. So the issue now comes into effective tax splitting. It is very important that year over year that you sit down with a tax expert and go over strategies on how to withdraw money from your RSP.
Can you change your strategy?
Help me understand that question, which was, can you change your strategy?
Right. So if you've elected for, say, 10% withdrawal on an annual basis, can you then later say, well, I want to go to the minimum, 5% or 6, whatever
So
it is?
the question basically was, is if you're at a 10% withdrawal, because that's what you elected, and can you change that to go to the minimum anytime in the future? And the answer is yes. You can pick whatever you want, provided you take out of the minimum.
Yeah.
In a retirement income fund, or a RIF, there is no maximum. You can take as much as you like, but you're going to pay tax on it. It's income, right? So the more you take out, the more their hands come out. And then the hands turn into a claw and they claw back. Remember that? That's I always think of Trudeau doing this and then doing this, right? So that's just, this is my visual.
Some people, I know of some people, that they got their RRSP, they took it out. They didn't realize that now they go with qualification for old age security for that year.
Yep.
And that's come up. Or flat back, whatever.
Yep.
But they don't realize that if you don't take it out, if you take it out small amount, then they probably don't get over.
Correct. So the comment was that there are some people who took a whole larger portion of, or all of their RSP out in 1 year.
Yeah.
And that takes an old age security clawback, that's a higher tax bracket. The NDP government in 17, actually increased the tax rates, especially over $150,000 of income. So for those who took the view of pulling a lot of money out of the RSP, were taxed even higher than the previous year. And they got the old age security clawback, and they might have also lost some other social benefits that they may have been entitled to. Right? So this is the kind of thing that we have to be careful of. I've seen some members from CP that are on CP pension, but also got some sort of rebate from the government on other items like a furnace rebuild or the windows in their home and so forth. Then they took too much money out of their RSP, their income went up, and they no longer qualify for those benefits from the provincial government. Right? So understanding that tax is a multi-pronged approach. Tax will be used on your RSP withdrawals, also impacts your old age security, and it may impact on some of the other social benefits you get from the provincial or federal government. So reviewing this annually, because it changes every year, is important.
There's also
Yes.
the aspect too, that if you don't take out money from your RIF and you do pass away, then all that money is collapsed into your estate and it's taxed in 1 year.
Yeah, but you must take it out.
Yeah, so the
That's
comment was, in the event or the year of death, when you have money in an RSP or a RIF, it is then considered to be income in that year, the whole amount. And you're absolutely right. However, if you have a surviving spouse, that can get transferred over, provided that you selected that spouse as your beneficiary, then it gets transferred over to your spouse. If you selected,
Still in a RIF.
sorry?
Still in a RIF.
Still in a RIF, and if they're under the age of 72, they can convert back to an RSP.
Oh, right.
Okay? Sure.
I want to think that you can only do that for one spouse to, well, obviously the other spouse is.
Yeah, we assume only one dies at a time, yeah.
Sorry.
See, this is the kind of gentleman that wants to have more than one spouse so he can split his income multiple ways, right? Oh, you're gonna get cold on now, I just heard
Yeah,
that.
well, but I know I did it, but my wife was not able to do it.
What, so you were able to,
I was able to assign all of my RIF to my wife.
Correct.
But when I made that arrangement, she is still living, so, but she couldn't do it for me.
she cannot select you as a beneficiary?
No.
I would go back to that RIF. The
Okay.
financial institution cannot restrict who is the beneficiary, especially a spouse.
Okay.
Because a state law in Alberta states that you have entitlement to her assets,
Right.
and vice versa.
Good.
Now, maybe she doesn't like you that much, and that's why she didn't prefer you. I'm not sure. We can talk about it later over a glass of wine or
No.
something. But I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Thank you for being a good sport. Yes.
Is the clawback is permanent or is the clock set back after you file the new income tax?
Very good question. Is the clawback permanent clawback, or is it reset? It is reset every year. Thank you for touching on that.
The government does.
The government will take it, and the government will then reset it.
That's right.
Okay?
But they're very slow.
Once
And
you file back-
they are very slow. So I'll tell you what generally happens. It happens in July. You file your taxes in April. You think you're fine. You don't get your money back until the following July. You're like, this is taking way too long. So be aware that on a normal course of action, they're about 3 to 4 months behind. Okay? Normal course of action. I've seen grass grow faster than when the government gets it. So just be aware of that. Yes?
So the income that you withdraw from your RIF, is that splittable?
So the question was, is the money you take out of a RIF able to be split on your income tax? The answer is yes. That is a huge benefit that the previous government put into play, that you can split your income as long as you're over the age of 65 and you're receiving it from a RIF. That's important. That's the same eligibility as you get with your CP pension. Your defined benefit pension, if you're married, can be split with your spouse on your income tax.
So, like if you're using a tax package or something, then they'll do that automatically on your pension income. So does that then include RIFs if both you and your spouse have a RIF, or do you have to do that
So
manually?
if I understood the question, on those tax software programs,
Right.
they automatically split it. Some do, some don't, depending on which software you have. Okay. Do they automatically split your RIF? Some do, some don't. So verify.
Okay.
You can I believe all the major ones, H&R, TurboTax, so on and so forth, have a online support that you can always call in to make sure you've got everything right. And let's say you did file your income tax and you forgot to split your income. You can always go back and refund. You can always call it oopsie.
Yeah.
Anytime. Yes, sir.
There's a $2,000 pension deduction which can be applied to CP pension. Also can be partly applied to the RIF.
Correct. So there's a pension
income
credit.
If
You're allowed $2,000 per year pension credit, and it's on the first $2,000 of pension. What's eligible for pension? Your CP defined benefit pension is included in there, and a RIF is included.
and a RIF.
But only 2,000, not
to
2,000 per,
No.
just 2,000.
The total.
Okay?
of-
So you do get a pension
If you
credit
have
for each you and your spouse.
Because we have pensioners which have a very low CP pension,
Okay?
whereby the RIF could be much higher than the pension, so then one can.
Yeah, and it's all lumped together as pension income. So either way, if it's a high RIF,
Or up to 2,000.
so if it's a high RIF or a CP and a small CP pension, or the other way around, a high CP pension and a low RIF, it's all lumped together for a $2,000
So
pension.
I'm splitting my pension with my wife.
Okay?
I can claim 2,000. And she can claim 2,000?
So the question was for the people in the back of the room, as he receives his pension, can he claim the $2,000 credit? And can she claim the $2,000 credit? The answer is yes. Tax-free savings accounts. I love them. Here's a great strategy for some of you when you look at tax planning. So make a note of this. There is in this handout some ideas behind it, so please feel free to pick one up. If we run out of copies, let me know and I'll get an electronic copy out to you for my staff. Right now, the total contribution you can make from the beginning the TFSA started is now $63,500,
Including 19?
including 19. Including 2019, $63,500. Because this year you're allowed to put $6,000.
Yes.
Last year was 5,500. Oh, sorry, 5,000. Before that was 5,500, and it's been jumping around. So if you added all the years in total, 63,500 is the maximum. You got a question for me,
That's
sir?
what I was gonna say. Does that include the earnings or just the?
Just the contribution, not the growth. Not the earnings or the interest on it, just the deposits. What I like about the tax-free savings account, it's different than an RRSP. If you withdraw money out of a tax-free savings account, you do not lose that contribution room. So if you put in 63,500 today, tomorrow you pull the whole thing back out, you can recontribute that $63,500 next year. Don't do it in the same year. Otherwise you get taxed, a penalty.
Yep.
Okay? The following year, you can put it back in.
Is that with the other 6,000?
And then another 6,000 next year.
No, 13,000. I took out money years ago.
Yeah.
And I wanna put the 13,000 back.
So you took out money years ago, you can put it back in now. Long as it's been greater than the previous calendar year. That's all that matters. Right?
Plus
So the
my
year
60 plus my 60.
plus the 6,000. So you always get to do this. So now here's an idea that I love about this vehicle. If you take money out of an RSP or a RIF, and you're doing it purely because you want to exhaust that RIF because God forbid you pass away and then the CRA taketh at that point in time. Let me give you an example of why I like this so much. If your RRIF or RIF is above $250,000 in value today and you pass away today with no surviving spouse, that whole $250,000 is considered income in the year of death. That is the 48% tax bracket in this province. Kiss 50% of your money goodbye. So, part of the strategy is to take money out of your RIF every year, slowly dip into it, and put the money into the TFSA. So take what you need to live off of, I understand that, and if you can take $6,000 more, that's not going to bump you into a higher tax bracket, without being properly cautious about it. You can put in the TFSA, and then any future growth of that $6,000 is tax-free. When you pass away, money comes out of the tax-free savings account, tax-free. It's a great vehicle. It is not part of the old age security clawback. So you take money out of this. If your $63,000 turned into $200,000 and you withdrew the whole $200,000, no old age security clawback.
But if you don't have a beneficiary, what you gonna do then?
If you don't have a beneficiary in your TFSA, it goes to your estate.
And then it will be taxed there, right?
So the question is, will it be taxed to your estate if you do not have a beneficiary? The answer is, it'll be subject to probate.
Yeah.
The maximum probate in Alberta is $525, so I'm not too concerned about that cost. Ralph Klein kept that in line, so we like that one. However, if you have no beneficiary and no will, now you have to go through the whole process of intestate. So that's the only thing I worry about for people who don't have that. I'm not going to spend too much time on registered disability savings plans. That's available out there. If you want specific information on that, and generally doesn't apply to most of the audience, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that.
So with a RIF withdrawal, they withhold taxes, right? If you were to take under 5,000, it's going to be taxed lower than if you took 6,000.
Yeah, let me hold that answer. I think I have it somewhere further on in my presentation. But the question was on withholding tax of a withdrawal from an RSP, and I will touch on that and just give you a minute on that one. Here is an investment when you're over the age of 72, 73 now that I think is very attractive. It's a good alternative. They're called annuities. You can convert your RIF or RSP to an annuity. Now, the good thing about an annuity is that it's going to give you guaranteed income for life. The not so good thing about an annuity is if your life isn't long, the money is gone when you pass away. So if you had $250,000 and you put it into an annuity and you died the next year, that's the risk. The actuaries are in this product. It's an insurance product that will give you income at the moment. Now, the income that you can receive is in the range of 7 to 8% today. If interest rates and GICs at 2 to 3%, you're getting almost triple in that value. So it is a lucrative opportunity. I've seen many individuals just add to it if they need guaranteed income for longer periods of time. Many of you in the room who have your pension, it might be sufficient. Your CP pension's enough, your CPP and OAS. So you don't need more guaranteed sources of income. So you don't need to go to annuities. But I would recommend getting advice and seeing what those prices are, because they're lucrative now, for sure. Especially over the age of 72. Non-registered assets. Non-registered assets, I think, are a very important piece to how income is made. There are 4 different ways you can receive income. Number 1 is interest income. Interest income is taxed at whatever tax rate you are today. So if you are making around $70,000, you'll be paying for every dollar of interest above that $70,000 of income, it's about 36 cents goes to the taxpayer. So 36%. Foreign dividends, dividends of companies that are outside of Canada, are also taxed at the same rate. The benefits of investing in Canadian companies that pay dividends is you get a dividend tax credit. Here's the downside. The dividend tax credit gives you less tax paid, but they gross up the dividend, and that goes against your old age security clawback. They cometh or they take it. I keep on saying that. Right? So dividends may not be suitable if you're going to pay less here but take away from here. You might be neutral at the end of the day, so you went through all that for what reason? So getting a tax review. The next one's capital gains. Capital gains, only half of the gain is taxable at your rate. So going back to my 36% example, if you made $1 in capital gains, only 18 cents would be taxed, not 36 like an interest payment. So capital gains are better tax-wise than interest income. But capital gains are more risky to get than interest income. Okay? The fourth one is return of capital. There are investments out there that'll pay you a distribution, a payment every year, and they defer their income for 12 years and so forth. Those are called return of capital investments. Most common ones are real estate investment trusts. They pay out on a monthly basis, but they don't pay full income, like interest, dividends, or capital gains. They pay return of capital, which means you'll be paying capital gains 12 years down the road. Great strategy if you want to defer income tax. Great strategy. Your home. If you are selling your home, downsizing, moving, whatever it may be, please, please, please put that in your taxes. You do not have to pay tax on your principal residence if you sell it or move or downsize. However, you do have to report it. Failure to report on your income tax is subject to penalties.
Where do you report that? Everybody is saying that, but where
There
is
is
the
a
line?
form that has come out
Oh, you have
as
a
of last
form.
year
Oh.
that says principal, any kind of real estate, please disclose. If you're filing your own income taxes, please be aware of this. If you sold your home in 2018, please.
But where is that written, sir?
It is on the CRA website, and it should, if you're,
Where is it written on the form that the person is now completing? Because if you look at
Ask
page
that question
2
one more
on
time.
if you look at page 2 on the top,
Yep.
it asks you if you have investment over 100,000. There is a question, yes
Yep.
or no, okay? Where is now that?
it's
question?
towards the end of the main jacket of the page, of the booklet. So
Of
towards
the booklet, but not on the
not on the
form.
not on the form.
Okay,
It's a
that's
separate
what I
form.
mean.
These buggers did it on a separate
Okay.
form, absolutely.
That
So
is the
be
truth
aware
now.
of that.
And that's where nobody
That's been the
talks
biggest
about.
complaint, is that people
Okay.
do not file because it's not on a form that's right on the front page.
You see,
It should
what,
be there.
what I'm signing is a form at the back.
Yep.
Okay, that the informations given are correct.
Yep.
Okay, now, if there is nothing written, then I have given no information, so legally, I am not bound by that.
I'm not a lawyer, and I wouldn't hold your hand on that one, my friend.
No.
Because the CRA will, basically what I'm hearing, let me
What-
paraphrase for you, is that if the form is not there, and you didn't have that form, then you're okay by not disclosing that information. I don't think that stands water with CRA.
Yeah, but I don't mean the form. What I'm signing for is what is information's given and written.
Yep.
And if I, like the question, like I said to you, on page 1, or on page 2 on the top, if your income, or you're having.
If you have assets outside of Canada above
$100,000, you tick it off, yes or no.
Correct.
Now, that is for me a proper identification to the
Yep.
matter in respect to that.
It took 3 years for that line to happen on that form.
Okay, now.
So Revenue Canada or CRA will come to that point at some time in the future. I'm totally agreeing with you. It's ridiculous how it has to be in a separate form. I wish they put it all on one form to make it easy. Did you sell any property? Check mark. Please fill out attached form. I agree with you. However, it's not there at this point in time. That's why I'm warning. Right? That's
Yeah,
what I'm
but,
saying.
but how are we supposed to, don't forget, we all getting older, here we having
I hear you.
people to the 90s.
I don't work for
who
CRA, my
don't-
friend. I wish I would have fixed it
No,
for
no,
you if I could.
But that is where now the tax consultants come
Yeah.
in, as well as
I hear
all
you.
the advisors.
I hear you. I hear you. And so what I will mention it on my radio shows. I will talk to my MP on your behalf. Until it's fixed, you're still responsible. I just want you guys to be aware. Okay? Yes, sir. Sorry?
You're supposed to know.
You're supposed to. Yeah, we're supposed to know. I think the information isn't out there. But what I do know is the registry services across the country are now becoming more transparent with Canada Revenue Agency. So be aware that they're all talking now. So if there's a sale, it does get triggered to CRA.
Isn't there such a thing as the Privacy Act?
Is there such thing as a Privacy Act? That's part of the Privacy Act now. Okay, vacation property. Sorry, we had a question back there, yes.
Give your house to one of your spouses.
One of your spouses, well, here we go, we got, see, multiple spouses always come up whenever I talk about this. So.
If you went to your house to one of your children,
Yes.
you still have to go through the form system?
So the question is, if you give one of your houses to one of your children, I'm assuming they're adult
Your
children,
original house, your home.
your principal residence, you have deemed disposed of your property. You have no longer ownership. Even if you put someone joint on your property, you have to disclose it.
Oh, cool.
Because you've changed ownership.
Yes.
Being 100% owner on your own property, I own my own home in Calgary, it's in my name. The minute I put my child, I put somebody else on there, I sell it, whatever I do to change title on ownership is a trigger or a deemed disposition. It may not be a taxable thing, but it has to be reportable. Remember that. Vacation property, different. Vacation property is not your principal residence, it is subject to income tax. Even if you didn't rent it out, because you could make a capital gain. If any of you have US property, or any foreign property, take into account foreign exchange. I've seen many people purchase real estate in Arizona 5 years ago when we were at par. Now the US dollar is at $1.34 to every Canadian dollar. They made 34% just on currency alone. When they sell, assuming the price hasn't changed, they still have to pay income tax on that 34% gain on the foreign currency. So be aware of it. Okay?
Yeah.
Before I get into corporations, I want to get back to the withholding taxes. I wanted to touch on that. In a retirement income fund or in a RIF, if you select the minimum payment only, that's that calculation I was referring to earlier. If you take the minimum payment only, the financial institution is not required to withhold income tax. It's when you go above the minimum, that's when they're supposed to withhold. And it starts off at $5,000 is 10%. Up from 5,000 to 10,000 is 15%. 30% above that, they will withhold automatically. If you're just on the minimum, there is no withholding tax. So you need to make arrangements with your financial institution to withhold income tax or pay the government when the bill comes in. Okay? Do we have any corporations or business owners here? Do we have corporations? A couple here? Okay, really quickly, the rules have changed for majority. If you're over the age of 65, I wouldn't worry about the rules that have just recently changed. There are ways to take money out of your company tax-free. Capital gains is the best strategy for taking money out of your company tax-free. So you personally do not receive any income tax, and it is not part of the Old Age Security Clawback. One of the few things that don't get clawed back. So definitely look at ways to take money out of your company if you have cash in there or investments. And if you have multiple shareholders,
You have to be a corporation.
yeah, so you have to be a corporation. You cannot be a sole proprietor. One of the common phrases or things that are coming out right now as people are aging and many Canadians do not have enough savings to last their lifetime is reverse mortgages. Very popular in the United States, very popular in Australia, not so popular here in Canada, but is growing in popularity. And so there are programs by the Canadian Housing Income Program. This is the only provider in Canada that does that, and it's called the CHIP program. This reverse mortgage basically allows you to take money out of the equity in your home. You do pay interest on that, but you're not paying physically out of your pocket. It just gets calculated into the value of the loan. And when you either sell or dispose of that property, you pay off the loan at that time. And if you pass away, then the property has to be either paid out or sold to cover that debt. So think of it as a line of credit attached to your house that you never have to pay until you either sell or die.
Your house is worth nothing by the time it's...
Sorry?
Your house is likely worth nothing by the time you need to dispose of it.
And the risk is that you'll owe as much as the value of your property. So that's why they kind of cap out at around 42% is the maximum that you borrow against your, or use against your home. So that over the years it doesn't erode the entire piece. But it could happen. You're absolutely right. Yes, sir. So on the CHIP program, do you have life insurance? No. On a line of credit, you do. On a line of credit, you have to make interest payments only, minimum, every year, or every month, sorry. So that's a requirement. On this, you don't have to make any payments, so you need.
But you can have no insurance once you're over 65.
So the comment was you cannot get insurance over the age of 65. That is not true anymore.
Not anymore.
No, it's all based upon your health, my friend. It's all based upon your health. If you're in good health,
oh yeah,
right, then and good is a relative piece. I would definitely talk to an insurance specialist. There are many programs. The Canadian Protection Plan, it's also called CPP, has programs available for insurance for people up to the age of 75 now, without a medical. So depending upon the amounts, there's some great programs out there.
You've heard good things about these people?
I've heard that they're able to do it. I haven't heard people passing away and getting paid in full, because there hasn't happened yet in large numbers. From the ones, the insurance claims that have been already filed, they've paid. And they're fiscally responsible from what I've seen. So their financials, they're fiscally, so they're not going to go bankrupt next month. Gifts, inheritances. I've heard a story or a question about either to one of your many wives or your children if you want to gift your houses and so forth. It's never many husbands. Did you notice that, ladies? No one said I want multiple husbands. One's enough. But the men always say they want multiple wives. Very interesting.
But just a quick question to that multiple wives.
Multiple wives, yeah.
That's right. Your ex-wife, she could be part of the pension, right? If you have a
If you have an
divorce
ex-wife,
pension-
is she entitled to pension, depending
Well,
upon your
she is
agreement?
there, and then you have your new wife, she's entitled to the pension too.
Here's the
So,
question.
I-
So if you
I
have a
haven't got
former
comment
wife,
to-
and you have a CP pension, or any other type of pension, and then you have a new wife, I question your judgment, first of all, if you have a new wife. But let's
Never
go, I
mind, it's
diverted.
the law,
Let's go
it's the
back.
law.
But if you have a previous wife where you're splitting your pension, then you have a new wife, you are subject to potentially splitting again if that second one doesn't work out.
And some have 4 or 5
Yeah. You can ask
ex-wives,
Donald
right?
Trump how many times you can get divorced and divide by 2. He's done it about 4 or 5 times.
I never made that mistake.
Would you believe him?
So I've always been told marriage is grand, divorce is $100 grand. That's what I've been told. Okay, so inheritances and gifts not taxable if you receive it, not taxable if you give it to an adult. Okay, so there's no inheritance tax in Canada. There's nothing like that. So don't worry about when you pass stuff through your will that there's going to be inheritance tax. Not in Canada. That was that pension income credit of $2,000 I referred to. We've already covered that piece. You do get an age credit on your income taxes. I'll let you this is basic stuff if you've already been filing your income taxes.
What's that?
Age tax credit? Comfortable? Yes. Yes, there's no inheritance tax in Canada.
If I receive, for example, an expensive item,
Yep.
that person's taxed on it?
Nope.
Okay.
So the question was if he bequeaths a very expensive item. Whatever. A painting, hockey cards, pictures of Faisal, whatever's gonna look good. You do not get taxed on the value. The person receiving it does not pay tax. But if you bought a painting at $10 and the market value turned into $10,000 and then you gifted it, that gain is taxable to you. Not to the recipient, but to you. So if you bought gold coins back in 1965 at $175 and now it's worth $1,300 an ounce, that gain is on you. The recipient got the $1,300 coin, no tax. Don't look at me. I'm reporting the news. I'm not creating it, my friend. Don't get mad at me. That looks as if you're going to throw something at me. I'm just telling you what it is.
Here's a Rolex that's going to go to somebody in the family, right?
Yep.
Cost $7,000 when it was new.
Yep.
Today's market, $9,000. Let's say I die tomorrow.
You got a $2,000 capital gain on your estate, my friend.
I got it.
You got it. There is no inheritance tax. You do not pay tax on receiving. You pay tax on the value when you transfer it over. No matter what type of property it is. Okay. We talked about income splitting, tax-free withdrawals, income and growth. Okay, this is the lawyers told me to put the small print on here.
Yeah, right.
Okay, here's where I think the biggest piece. I got 5 minutes and I gotta get going. I do apologize. Okay, I love talking about this stuff and I can talk about it forever. There's some key things in regards to tax, but I would strongly recommend when you're investing, either in a RIF, non-registered tax-free savings account, do not let the tax tail wave the investment dog. Do not make decisions purely on tax. Make decisions purely on the investment of what you're investing in, or the merits of the investment, then go to the tax side second. You'll make a lot more money that way than the other way around. I want to thank you. I know I'm running out of time and I do have to go. I do apologize. Copies of my book are here. Pieces to what I was talking about are available here. I will be able to send any electronic copy. If you want more copies of our book, just pass to your friends and family. More than happy to do that for you. My job this last few years have been to educate and inform the Canadians out there of what's really happening in regards to retirement taxes and really making sure you have more money in your pocket, less going to Ottawa and Edmonton. And I want to thank you for letting me have that opportunity to share.